It all started with a phone that never seemed to stop ringing in the lives of Yaman and Demet Özdemir. Fame had already made their worlds noisy, filled with constant interviews, flashing cameras, and the endless whispers of fans who wanted them together both on and off the screen. But behind the glamour and the carefully staged smiles, there were quieter moments when a single phone call could carry more weight than 1,000 screaming headlines. And one night, it happened, the secret call that no one knew about, the call that changed everything between Can and Demet. Demet had been sitting alone in her apartment in Istanbul, the city lights glowing softly outside her window. She was in the middle of reading a script, but her mind kept drifting back to him. No matter how much time had passed, no matter how many roles she took on, Can's presence lingered like a shadow she couldn't escape. That night, her phone lit up, and for a moment her breath caught in her chest. The name on the screen wasn't his, but the number connected to him. A mutual friend. A line that shouldn't have been crossed. The voice on the other end was hesitant. Demet, he wanted to talk to you. He couldn't call himself, but he asked me to. Her heart raced. Why now? Why after all these years of silence? She tried to steady her voice, but inside she was trembling. She knew if she said yes, if she let this conversation happen, everything she had worked so hard to bury would resurface. And yet, she couldn't resist. On the other side of the city, Yaman was pacing the floor of his Italian mansion. He had left Turkey for a fresh start, for peace, for a new life that was supposed to silence the chaos. But peace never came. His success in Italy, the adoration of fans, the flashing cameras, none of it mattered, because every quiet night ended the same way, with her face in his mind. That night, with his phone in his hand, he didn't dare dial her number. He couldn't. Too much pride, too much fear. And so, he asked someone close to him to make the call instead. When Demet finally heard his voice, the world seemed to stop. It was softer than she remembered, more fragile, but still unmistakably him. Demet, he whispered, almost afraid to say her name. For a moment, neither of them spoke, letting the silence stretch out, filled only with the weight of everything they hadn't said before. Years of misunderstandings, of rumors, of unsent messages, all of it hung in the air between them. Her heart pounded as she leaned back in her chair, closing her eyes. Why now, Can? After all this time, why this call? She asked, her voice breaking just slightly. And then he said it, the words that would change everything, the words she would never forget. Because I couldn't go another night without hearing your voice. In that moment, the wall she had built around herself began to crack. The years of silence, the distance, the separate paths. They all collapsed with that single confession. She realized that no matter how much she had tried to move on, a part of her had been waiting, hoping, longing for this very moment. And yet, deep down, she also knew, one phone call could heal, or it could destroy. Demet's fingers trembled as she held the phone closer, as if afraid the fragile connection between them would vanish if she let go. For years, she had told herself that what happened between them was a beautiful chapter, but a closed one. She had convinced herself that his silence, his decision to leave, his refusal to look back, it was all the final punctuation on their story. And yet here he was, speaking her name in a tone that made her heart ache all over again. Do you know how many times I wanted to call you? Can's voice cracked, the words coming out heavier than he intended. But I didn't. Because I was afraid. Afraid you wouldn't answer. Afraid you would hang up. Afraid you had moved on. Demet closed her eyes, and for a moment, tears threatened to fall. She remembered the nights she had stared at her phone, waiting for it to light up with his name. Nights when she would have given anything for a single message, a single word. But it never came. You were afraid, she whispered bitterly. And what about me, Can? Do you know how afraid I was? Afraid of never knowing why. Afraid of being just another memory you wanted to forget. Her words hit him harder than he expected. He stopped pacing, pressing his hand to his forehead. The truth was, he had never forgotten. Every film set, every red carpet, every city he traveled to, her absence haunted him. People saw the confident actor, the charming man adored by millions, but inside, there was a silence only she could fill. Demet, I never wanted to forget. I thought I was protecting you, from me, from my chaos, from the life I was leading. But I realize now, I wasn't protecting you. I was just running away. His voice shook, his pride stripped away. For the first time in years, he wasn't Yaman, the star. He was just Can, a man confessing to the one person who still had the power to break him. Demet felt her chest tighten. Part of her wanted to hang up, to escape the flood of emotions crashing through her. But another part, a much stronger part, wanted to listen, to finally hear the truth she had been denied for so long. Do you know what it did to me, Can? Waiting for that call that never came? Do you know how it felt to hear everyone else's voices, but never yours? Her voice cracked, and finally, a tear slid down her cheek. There was silence on the line, so heavy it was almost unbearable. And then, quietly, he said, I thought you'd be better without me. But the truth is, I was never better without you. Demet's heart stopped. It was everything she had wanted to hear, everything she had dreamed of during sleepless nights. But it also terrified her. Because once those words were spoken, there was no going back. This wasn't just nostalgia. This wasn't just a memory. This was a confession that had the power to reopen wounds, or heal them forever. She pressed the phone tighter against her ear, her breath unsteady. Then why now, Can? Why, after all these years, do you suddenly want to face this? His answer was simple, yet devastating. Because I realized silence has been killing me more than the truth ever could. Demet's tears flowed freely now, not just from pain, but from the dangerous flicker of hope she thought she had buried long ago. And in that fragile moment, both of them knew, this call wasn't just a reunion. It was the spark of something neither of them could control anymore. Demet wiped her tears with the back of her hand, but her voice betrayed the storm inside her. Do you even realize what you're asking, Can? To open this door again, to face everything we left behind? She paused, her chest rising and falling rapidly. It's not just about us anymore. It's about the scars we carry. The people who watched us, judged us, made stories out of our silence. Can let out a deep sigh on the other end of the line. His eyes wandered across the darkened room, landing on the untouched glass of wine he had poured hours earlier. I don't care what they say, Demet. They've talked about us when we were together, they talked when we weren't. They'll never stop. But I can't keep living for them. I need to know if they're still in us, even if it's just in your heart. Her hand trembled as she clutched the phone tighter. The truth was, there was still in us, buried under years of silence, locked away in the deepest part of her soul. But to admit that felt like surrendering all the strength she had built. She took a shaky breath. You think one call erases years of silence? You think hearing your voice suddenly makes everything okay? There was a pause. And then, Can's voice, soft yet piercing, no. I don't expect it to erase anything. But maybe, just maybe, it can start to heal something. Demet's mind flashed back to their last real conversation, the night everything fell apart. The shouting, the misunderstandings, the pain of walking away knowing there were words left unsaid. For years she had replayed that night in her head, asking herself if things could have been different. And now, hearing him again, she wondered if fate was offering them a second chance, or simply tempting them into reliving the same heartbreak. She whispered almost to herself, but loud enough for him to hear, I waited for so long, Can. I waited for a message, a call, a sign. But it never came. And every day that passed, I told myself it never would. Can's voice cracked with emotion. And every day, Demet, I told myself I didn't deserve to call. That you deserved peace, not my chaos. But tonight, I couldn't lie to myself anymore. He hesitated, then added. Do you remember Rome? The night we walked along the river after filming? Demet's breath caught. How could she forget? The city lights reflecting on the water, the quiet moments when they weren't actors or public figures, just two people who wanted to hold on to something real. "Of course I remember," she said softly. "I think about that night all the time," he admitted. "Because that was the last time I truly felt alive. And I've been chasing that feeling ever since, but it always led me back to you." Her tears returned, stronger this time. That memory had been hers too, a secret, untouchable fragment of happiness she had guarded from the world. To hear him say it, to know he carried it as she did, was almost too much to bear. "Can," she whispered, her voice breaking. "You don't know what you're doing to me." His reply was immediate, raw, desperate. "Then tell me. Tell me if I should stop. Tell me if hearing my voice hurts more than the silence did. Because if it does, Demet, I'll disappear forever. I swear." Her heart raced, torn between fear and longing. She had dreamed of this call for so long. And now that it was real, she realized the truth. It wasn't the silence that had broken her. It was the possibility that silence might be all they ever had. The silence between them now was almost unbearable, heavier than any words could ever be. Demet pressed the phone tighter to her ear, her heartbeat echoing in the quiet of her apartment. She wanted to say something, anything, but her throat was dry, her voice caught between fear and desire. Finally, she spoke, her words trembling. "Do you know what hurts the most, Can? It wasn't the fights, it wasn't even the distance. It was the silence. That empty space where your voice should have been. Every night I wondered if you even thought of me. And now you're telling me you did? That you suffered too?" Her voice cracked, and she felt anger bubbling beneath the sadness. "Then why didn't you pick up the phone? Why did you make me carry all of this alone?" On the other end, Can's breath was unsteady. His chest rose and fell as he leaned against the wall, his hand sliding down his face in frustration. "Because I was weak," he confessed, his voice raw. "I thought being strong meant walking away. I thought I was sparing you the chaos of my life. But I was wrong, Demet. I was so wrong." Demet closed her eyes as tears streamed down. Part of her wanted to hang up, to protect the fragile pieces of her heart that were still intact. But another part of her, the part that still loved him despite everything, wanted to keep listening, to hold on to every word. "Do you think one call changes everything?" she asked, almost angrily. "No," Ken replied softly. "But maybe it changes something. Maybe it's the beginning of us finally saying what we should have said years ago." She froze. The beginning. The words terrified her as much as they thrilled her. Could she really allow herself to believe in beginnings again? Her mind raced with memories, the nights on set when they laughed until dawn, the way his eyes searched for hers even in crowded rooms, the secret glances they shared when no one was supposed to notice. Those moments had been real. Too real to ever erase. "Can," she whispered, her voice trembling. "If we open this door again, we can't go back. You understand that, right? This isn't just about you missing me. This is about me, about whether I can survive losing you again." His reply came instantly, heavy with emotion. "Then I'll make sure you never lose me again." Demet's breath caught, her hand shaking as she pressed the phone against her lips. She wanted to believe him. She needed to believe him. But doubt clawed at her heart. "You don't know what you're asking," she whispered. "Yes, I do," he said firmly. "I'm asking for one chance. Not as the man the world sees, not as the actor, not as the star. Just as Can. The man who has never stopped loving you." Her tears fell harder now, splashing against the screen of her phone. And in that fragile, stolen moment, she realized the truth. The call hadn't just changed everything between them. It had changed her. The night outside was still, but inside both their worlds, storms raged. Demet sat frozen, her phone pressed to her ear, her heart louder than the city traffic echoing beyond her window. She had heard declarations of love before, but this was different. This wasn't a scripted line, it wasn't a carefully rehearsed scene, it was raw, unguarded, and dangerous. Can, she whispered, her voice trembling, if you mean this, if you truly mean it, then everything changes. Do you understand? My life, your life, our lives. Nothing would ever be the same. On the other side of the line, Can's chest heaved with every breath. He knew she was right. This wasn't just about a single call. It was about opening the door to a story the world had never stopped watching, never stopped speculating about. If they stepped into it again, it would consume them, for better or for worse. I don't care what it costs, he replied, his voice breaking but firm. I don't care what people say, I don't care what headlines scream tomorrow. All I care about is that you still answer my call tonight. That you still hear me. Her tears streamed silently as she closed her eyes. For years, she had lived with the ghost of this silence, the weight of what-ifs that never let her rest. And now, for the first time, she had the chance to let go of it all, or to fall even deeper. Do you still love me? She asked suddenly, almost like a child afraid of the answer. There was no hesitation. I never stopped, he said. Not for a single day. The words struck her like lightning, filling her with both joy and fear. Because love was never the problem. It had always been timing, pride, and the invisible walls they built around themselves. She took a deep breath, her voice breaking. Then listen to me, Can. If this is real, if you want me back in your life, it can't just be words. It can't just be another promise. It has to be everything. Do you understand? Because I can't survive losing you twice. I swear to you, Can said, his voice heavy with emotion. I'll never let silence steal us again. The line went quiet, but the silence this time was different. Not empty, not painful, but full of possibility. Two hearts, separated by distance and time, suddenly beating in the same rhythm again. Demet wiped her tears, and for the first time in years, a small, fragile smile appeared on her face. She didn't know what tomorrow would bring, she didn't know if the world would ever let them be. But she knew one thing, this call had changed everything. And as Can's voice whispered her name one more time, she realized the truth she had been denying all along. Sometimes, one call is enough to rewrite an entire love story.